I froze with the fork in my hand. My son, Daniel, only 11, leaned close to my ear at the crowded family party. His little hand trembled as he whispered, "Don't eat the cake." His face was pale, his lips shaking. My stomach dropped, and I knew something was terribly wrong. The room smelled of sugar and candles, voices loud with laughter, but his warning cut through it all. Everyone cheered as my sister-in-law carried the cake to the table. She smiled too wide, eyes glinting in the light. Something about her face made me shiver. Daniel gripped my arm tighter. "My name is Evelyn Cross. I am 42 years old, and until that night, I thought family meant safety." But Daniel's whisper changed everything. I had been fighting battles in silence for years, but this was war. What kind of mother hears her son say those words and stays quiet? I looked at him, his small chest heaving. He looked terrified, like he had seen something I hadn't. His eyes darted toward the cake, then back to me, begging me to understand. Why would an 11-year-old say that? What had he seen? And what was hidden in that cake? The cake looked perfect, white frosting with red roses, shiny strawberries on top. But the way my sister-in-law stared at me as she set it down made my skin crawl. She whispered something to her husband and then looked straight into my eyes, like daring me to take the first bite. I tried to smile, tried to pretend nothing was wrong, but my son's hand was digging into my arm. His face was so pale it scared me. He was never like this. He was always playful, always brave. But tonight, he looked like he was holding a secret too heavy for a child. I leaned close and asked him, "Why, Daniel? What's wrong with the cake?" But he shook his head fast, tears forming in his eyes. He whispered, "Please, Mom, just don't eat it." His words cracked like glass, and I felt my heart break inside my chest. I sat there, surrounded by laughter, by clinking glasses, by fake smiles, and I realized I was the only one who sensed the danger. Everyone else clapped, waiting for me to cut the cake. It was supposed to be my birthday celebration. But what kind of birthday comes with fear? I swallowed hard. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My eyes flicked around the table. My husband, Richard, was laughing with his brother, not noticing me. My mother-in-law kept adjusting her pearls, pretending to be elegant. No one else saw the storm rising inside my son. I reached for the knife. My hands shook as I cut the first slice. My son grabbed my wrist. His eyes were wide, pleading. "Don't, Mom," he whispered again. My breath caught in my throat. Everyone cheered louder. I felt trapped. Should I listen to my son, or should I pretend? I want you, the viewer, to imagine this moment. What would you do if your child begged you not to eat the very food set in front of you? Would you risk being called crazy, paranoid, ungrateful, or would you trust your child's fear? Tell me in the comments right now. The slice slid onto the plate. My sister-in-law smiled wider, but it wasn't joy, it was hunger. Daniel's grip on me grew stronger. I had never seen his face so pale, so desperate. My chest tightened. Something was wrong. Something evil was hiding beneath all this laughter and light. I could not breathe. My mind raced with questions. Why was my son so afraid of the cake? Did he see something in the kitchen? Did someone tell him something? And why was my sister-in-law smiling like she already knew the ending of a story I had just started? I looked down at the cake again. It looked harmless, beautiful even. But sometimes beauty hides poison. I thought of every time my in-laws had mocked me, whispered behind my back, treated me like an outsider. Had all of that been leading to this one terrifying moment? I turned to Daniel, brushing his hair back. I whispered, "It's okay, baby. I believe you." His tears rolled down, his lips trembling. My words seemed to calm him a little, but his eyes still stayed locked on the cake, like he was watching a monster in disguise. My husband finally looked over and asked, "What's taking so long, Eve?" His voice was casual, careless, like none of this mattered. I forced a smile, but my insides were burning. I glanced at my sister-in-law again. Her grin was sharp, cruel. I felt like prey at her table. And then, just as I was about to push the cake away, my son whispered something even more chilling. His voice was so soft I almost didn't hear it. I saw her put something in it. My blood ran cold. My fork clattered to the plate. My hands shook harder. The laughter around the table grew louder, covering the sound of my son's confession. I sat frozen, staring at that perfect cake, my sister-in-law's perfect smile, my son's pale face. The room spun around me, and I knew one thing for sure. This family party was about to turn deadly. Before I continue, let me ask you, if you were in my place, would you expose the truth right here in front of everyone, or would you wait, pretend, and find proof later? Comment below where you're watching this from. I want to know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe, because what happened next changed everything. I stared at the cake, my hand trembling over the plate. Daniel's words echoed in my head. I saw her put something in it. My throat tightened. Around me, everyone clapped and smiled, waiting for me to take the first bite. The pressure was heavy, but my son's fear was heavier. I forced a laugh and said, "Let's wait until after dinner for the cake." The room went silent for a moment, and I saw my sister-in-law's smile falter. Her eyes narrowed, sharp as knives. "Oh, come on, Evelyn," she said sweetly. "Just one bite. We worked so hard." The way she said, "we" chilled me. Who was part of this? My husband. His brother. My mother-in-law? I glanced at each of them, searching their faces. No one seemed nervous, except her. She leaned forward, almost daring me. And then I noticed it. Her hand resting on the table, shaking slightly. My son squeezed my arm tighter. "Please, Mom," he whispered again. His voice cracked, weak and scared. My heart broke, but I stood my ground. I pushed the plate aside and said, "Later." Laughter covered the tension, but I saw it, the flicker of anger flash across my sister-in-law's face. Why would she want me to eat that cake so badly? Why tonight? Why in front of everyone? Questions swirled in my mind, but no answers came. Instead, I felt a pit in my stomach. Something terrible was hiding under all these smiles. And Daniel had already seen too much. Dinner dragged on, but my appetite was gone. Every bite of food tasted like ash. My eyes stayed on the cake in the center of the table, glowing under the lights like some kind of deadly trap. My sister-in-law laughed too loudly, her eyes never leaving me. Daniel sat quietly beside me, picking at his plate. Every so often, he would glance at the cake and shiver. He was only 11. A child should not carry a secret like this. My heart ached. What had he witnessed in that kitchen? And why was he so afraid to say more? Finally, Richard raised his glass. "To Evelyn," he said, smiling like a perfect husband. Everyone clapped and cheered. But when I looked into his eyes, I didn't see love. I saw distance, coldness, maybe even guilt. My stomach twisted tighter. Could my own husband know about the cake too? The table cheered louder, but Daniel leaned close to me again. His voice was barely a whisper. "She said it was for you." My breath caught. For me. My own birthday cake. Meant to hurt me? My chest burned as I swallowed hard. Who plots something like this against family? My sister-in-law tilted her head, her smile growing sharper. "Evelyn," she said, "you're the guest of honor. Don't keep us waiting." Her tone was soft, but there was venom hiding underneath. Everyone stared at me, waiting. My pulse raced. I needed to escape this trap, but how? What would you do if you were in my place? Would you take the risk and eat, or would you trust your child's desperate warning? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to see how many of you would have the courage to stop the game like I did. I cleared my throat and stood. "Excuse me," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll be right back." I walked toward the kitchen, the whole room watching me. My hands shook as I gripped the counter. I needed proof. I couldn't accuse anyone without it. But where could I find it? Daniel followed me quietly. "Mom," he whispered, "please don't go back out there." His eyes were glassy with tears. I knelt down and cupped his face. "What did you see, baby? Tell me." His lip quivered. She poured something from a bottle into the frosting. I heard her say your name. My stomach flipped. My worst fear was real. This wasn't paranoia. It wasn't my imagination. My sister-in-law had poisoned the cake. My son had seen it. The truth was now too heavy to ignore. I wrapped my arms around him, tears burning in my eyes. But I couldn't cry yet. We needed proof. Something I could show Richard. Something that would tear the mask off her face. I opened the trash bin under the counter and dug through. My fingers shook as I moved napkins, wrappers, plastic cups. And then, I saw it. A small glass bottle, half empty, hidden under plates. The label was smudged, but I could make out one word: poison. My chest heaved. My hands froze around the bottle. Daniel gasped softly. My skin prickled with horror. I felt dizzy, like the whole world tilted sideways. Who brings poison to a family party? And why was it meant for me? I shoved the bottle into my pocket, my hands trembling. Daniel clung to me, his small arms shaking. I whispered, "Stay quiet. Don't tell anyone yet." My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone outside could hear it. I knew one thing for sure. Tonight, masks were going to fall. We walked back into the dining room. The cake sat there, glowing under the candles. My sister-in-law's smile widened when she saw me. "Ready?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I forced myself to smile back, though inside, rage was boiling in my chest. I sat down, hands still trembling. The bottle pressed against my thigh, a silent reminder of the truth. My eyes locked on hers. I thought of all the whispers, the insults, the way she treated me like I was beneath her. Tonight, she wanted to finish me. But I wasn't done. The cheers grew louder. Everyone leaned in closer. My husband raised his glass again. The room filled with noise, laughter, fake joy. But in my head, I heard only Daniel's whisper, "Don't eat the cake." And now I knew why. I had proof. The question was, how would I use it? Should I expose her right now, in front of everyone? Or should I play along, wait for the right moment, and make her confess herself? Both paths were dangerous. Both paths could destroy this family forever. But one thing was certain. Revenge had already begun, and I would not stop. Before I tell you what happened when I stood up with that bottle, let me ask you this. Would you wait for the perfect revenge, or would you strike immediately and end the game? Comment your answer, and don't forget to subscribe, because what came next left the entire room in shock. I sat there with the bottle hidden in my pocket, my heart beating so loudly I thought it might burst out of my chest. Everyone laughed, clapped, and waited for me to cut the cake. But inside, I was holding the darkest secret of the night, a secret that could destroy us all. My sister-in-law leaned closer, her fake smile shining across the table. "Go on, Evelyn," she whispered. "Take the first bite." My hand froze on the knife. I could feel Daniel's small hand gripping my arm. He didn't say a word, but his fear was enough to scream louder than anything. I forced a laugh and stood tall. "Why don't we all eat together?" I suggested. "It'll taste even better that way." The table erupted in cheers, but my sister-in-law's smile cracked. Her jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing into tiny slits. She wanted me alone in this trap, but now everyone would share it. That's when the thought hit me. What if she poisoned only my slice? My throat tightened. I stared at the cake and wondered, how far would she go just to see me gone? Would she risk hurting others too? Or had she crafted this plan only for me? What do you think? My husband placed his hand over mine. "Honey," he said softly, "just take the first piece. It's tradition." His eyes were unreadable, dark like a locked door. Did he know? Was he part of this? Or was he simply blind to the storm raging at this table? My chest burned for answers. The knife touched the cake, slicing through the frosting. The room cheered louder, voices echoing in my head. But I couldn't hear them. I could only hear Daniel's whisper. She poured something in the frosting. Every movement felt heavy, like I was walking into a trap I couldn't escape. I cut the first slice, my hand trembling. My sister-in-law's gaze never left me. She leaned forward, biting her lip, her eyes locked on my every move. It was as if she was waiting for me to make the wrong choice, waiting for her plan to finally unfold. Instead of eating, I placed the slice in front of her. "Since you worked so hard," I said, forcing a smile, "you should have the first bite." The entire room laughed and clapped. But the look on her face, oh, the look, was priceless. Her smile twitched, her hands stiffened. She wasn't expecting this. She stammered, "Oh, Evelyn, I couldn't possibly. It's your special night." But the way she pulled back, the way her hands shook, it told me everything. Everyone else was laughing, enjoying the moment. But I saw her fear. I saw her trap falling apart right before my eyes. "Let me ask you, what would you do here? Would you push her to eat and risk exposing everything right away? Or would you stay quiet, play along, and gather more proof? I need to know, because both choices carry a cost. Which path would you take if it were you?" My hands clenched around the knife. My heart begged me to expose her, to throw the bottle on the table and watch her mask burn. But another part of me whispered, "Wait. Watch. Make her confess herself." Sometimes revenge isn't about striking fast, it's about striking at the perfect time. So I leaned back and smiled. "Don't worry, we'll all enjoy it together." Laughter filled the room again, but her eyes stayed locked on me. The cake was cut into slices, passed around to each plate. My chest ached as I watched everyone lift their forks. Was it safe for them? Or not? Daniel shook his head frantically. "Mom," he whispered, "don't let them eat it." My blood ran cold. What if it wasn't just for me? What if the entire cake was poisoned? My son's voice echoed in my ears. I couldn't stay silent anymore, not if everyone's life was at risk. I slammed my hand down on the table. The laughter died instantly. Every eye turned to me. My hands trembled, but I pulled the small glass bottle from my pocket and held it up. "Does anyone know what this is?" I asked, my voice shaking. The room froze in silence. My sister-in-law's face went pale. My husband's eyes widened, his glass slipping from his hand and shattering on the floor. The silence was louder than thunder. Everyone stared at the bottle in my hand. The truth was out, and the masks were finally beginning to fall. But just as I opened my mouth to speak, my sister-in-law stood up. "That's not mine," she snapped, her voice too quick, too sharp. "You're lying, Evelyn. You planted that yourself." Her words cut through the room like a blade. Gasps filled the air. Suddenly, all eyes weren't just on her, they were on me. My knees weakened. Was she turning this on me? My chest heaved. Richard stood slowly, his face pale as stone. "Evelyn," he said carefully, "what are you talking about? Where did you get that bottle?" His voice was calm, too calm. My heart sank. Was he protecting her? Or doubting me? I opened my mouth to answer, but Daniel suddenly shouted, "I saw her do it." His small voice cracked like lightning across the storm. The room fell silent again. All eyes turned to my son. His little body shook, but his voice carried the weight of truth. "She put it in the cake." The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, whispers, chaos. My sister-in-law's face turned red. She pointed at Daniel. "He's just a child. He doesn't know what he's talking about." But the damage was done. Everyone had heard him. And deep down, I knew, Children don't lie about things like this. I clutched Daniel to my chest, tears brimming in my eyes. The bottle shook in my hand. No more lies, I whispered. Not tonight. But before I could say more, my sister-in-law lunged toward me. Her hands reached for the bottle, her face twisted with rage. The room gasped in horror. The bottle slipped from my hands, clattering to the floor. Time seemed to slow. My breath caught in my throat as everyone watched it roll under the table. And then, silence. Absolute silence. My son screamed, "Mom!" And in that moment, I realized the game was far from over. Because the truth wasn't just hidden in that bottle. It was still buried inside the people at that table. Their secrets, their lies, their masks. And tonight, piece by piece, those masks would shatter. The bottle rolled under the long dining table, clinking softly against the wooden leg of a chair. Everyone stared at it, but no one moved. My sister-in-law's face twisted with panic, while my husband's lips pressed into a tight line. I could feel the air grow heavy, as though the walls themselves were listening. I bent down, but before I could reach for the bottle, Richard's brother suddenly stepped in front of me. He blocked my view and crouched down quickly, his large hands snatching it up before I could. He stood tall, holding it up for everyone to see. His eyes flicked to me, then to her. "This is nonsense," he said firmly, gripping the bottle tight. "Evelyn's making up stories. She's always been dramatic." His tone cut through me like glass. My knees weakened. Always dramatic. That's what he thought of me. The family nodded in nervous agreement, but deep down, I could see doubt in their faces. My son Daniel cried out, "She's lying. I saw her." His small voice wavered but was full of courage. He pointed right at his aunt. "She poured it in the frosting. I saw it with my own eyes." The room grew louder, whispers spreading like fire across dry grass. Who was telling the truth? I turned to Richard, searching his face for answers. But his eyes avoided mine. He looked down, rubbing his temples like a man drowning in silence. Was he ashamed? Was he protecting her? Or was he secretly part of it all? What do you think? Could a husband betray his own wife like this? The brother who held the bottle smirked and set it on the table. "It's nothing," he said. "Probably just vanilla extract or food coloring." His hand pushed it toward the cake like a careless afterthought. But I knew. I could feel it in my bones. This wasn't something harmless. It was meant to kill. I grabbed it quickly before he could stop me. My fingers trembled as I twisted the cap open. A sharp, bitter smell burned my nose. Gasps filled the air. Even those who doubted me moments ago began to lean back in their chairs. This was no kitchen flavoring. This was poison. My sister-in-law slammed her hand on the table. "She's lying," she shouted again, her voice trembling this time. Her mask was breaking, piece by piece. She pointed at me, her face red. "She wants to ruin this family. She's jealous of me, jealous of what I have." But her words rang hollow now. I looked at her closely. Behind the rage, I saw fear. Real fear. She was cornered, and she knew it. "Why?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "Why would you do this? What did I ever do to deserve this?" The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Everyone waited for her answer. Instead of speaking, she stormed around the table and grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin as she hissed, "Shut your mouth, Evelyn. Now." The room erupted in shouts as family members pulled her back. Chairs screeched against the floor. Daniel clung to me, his little hands shaking. Her husband grabbed her shoulders. "What are you doing?" he barked, his face pale with shock. But she fought against him, her eyes burning with rage. "You don't understand," she screamed. "You don't know what she's done to me." The words hung in the air like smoke. What had I done? I stepped back, my heart racing. "Then tell them," I said, my voice trembling but strong. "Tell them what I've done." Tell them why you want me dead." The room went silent again. All eyes turned to her. Even Richard finally looked up, his face pale, his hands gripping the edge of the table. Her lips quivered. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of fury. "You ruined my life," she finally shouted. "You don't even know how much I've lost because of you." Her chest heaved as her secret began to spill. The room buzzed with confusion. People exchanged glances, whispering under their breath. Lost what? How had I ruined her life? My mind spun, searching for answers. I had lived as a quiet wife, a mother, someone who avoided conflict. How could I be the cause of such hatred? "What do you think?" Her voice cracked as she turned to the family. "She took everything from me. My chances. My place. My happiness." Her hands shook wildly as she pointed at me. "And tonight, I was going to take it back." The raw anger in her voice shook me to the core. This wasn't madness. It was revenge. But revenge for what? I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Richard suddenly slammed his hand on the table. "Enough," he roared. His voice echoed off the walls. The room fell into silence. His face was red, his jaw clenched. But his next words made my stomach twist. He turned to his sister. "I told you not to do this," he growled. Gasps filled the room. My breath caught. He knew. My husband knew. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. Had he been protecting me, or had he been protecting her this whole time? I stared at him, my chest tight. "You knew." My voice was barely a whisper, but everyone heard it. His eyes flicked to me, then to Daniel, then back down to the floor. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The truth was there in his silence. Daniel clung tighter to me, tears streaming down his face. "Mom," he sobbed. "What's happening?" I held him close, my own tears threatening to fall. The family watched in horror as the truth began to unravel. My husband knew. My sister-in-law wanted me dead. And I was trapped in a house full of enemies. But this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Because as I stood there, shaking and broken, a thought burned in my mind like fire. If they wanted war, then war is what they would get. And I wasn't going to fight fair. I stood frozen, my husband's silence cutting deeper than any blade. He had known. The man I shared a bed with, the father of my child, had carried this secret and let it grow in the dark. My heart beat so loud I thought it might crack my ribs. The room was filled with whispers, shifting eyes, and hidden gasps. But all I could see was Richard's face. He refused to meet my eyes, his hand still pressed on the table. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to force him to explain. But fear kept me still. My sister-in-law, Lorraine, finally stepped back, wiping her tears angrily. "You think she's innocent?" she shouted at everyone. "You think she's a victim? No. She's the reason my life was destroyed. She stole everything from me, and none of you even know it." Her voice cracked with rage. The family murmured in confusion. Some believed her. Others looked at me with pity. But Daniel clutched my waist, his small voice breaking through the noise. "My mom didn't do anything wrong." His courage was the only thing that kept me standing. But still, questions burned in my chest. I turned to her, my voice trembling. "Lorraine, what are you talking about? What did I steal from you?" I needed answers. My mind raced back over the years. Every family gathering. Every birthday. Every holiday. She had always smiled at me. Maybe too sweetly. Was it all fake? Her face twisted with hate. "Richard," she spat. "You stole Richard. He was supposed to be mine. Everyone in this family knows it. He loved me first, but you came and took him away. And after that, I was left with nothing." The silence that followed felt like fire. Gasps filled the air. My knees nearly gave out. My husband's head hung low, shame dripping from him like sweat. My chest burned. Richard loved her first? My stomach turned cold. I couldn't breathe. How long had this lie lived in our house? How many years had I been blind? My son looked up at me, confused. "Dad," he whispered. But Richard still said nothing. His silence was an answer on its own. And in that moment, I realized, my marriage had been built on sand. Lies had been the foundation. No wonder it all collapsed now. "Is that true?" I asked, my voice raw. "Did you love her?" Richard finally lifted his eyes, wet with guilt. He nodded once, slowly. My body shook as though the floor itself had betrayed me. The man I trusted most had not only failed me, he had destroyed me. The family stirred, shifting in their seats, not knowing where to look. Some stared at me with sympathy, others at Lorraine with shock. She stood taller, her chest rising proudly. "See, I told you. She never belonged here." "I did." Her voice cut into me, sharp as broken glass. My thoughts spun wildly. How could I not have seen it? The long glances between them at dinners, the private jokes I didn't understand, the tension in the air I had brushed aside. Was it all so clear, and I had just chosen not to see? "What would you do?" Daniel clung tighter to me, whispering, "Mom, let's go home." His small voice grounded me. But where was home now? My home was filled with lies. My marriage was hollow. My son's safety was threatened by people who claimed to be family. I had no safe place left. I turned back to Lorraine, rage finally pushing past my fear. "Even if that's true," I said, my voice firm, "it doesn't give you the right to try to poison me. Love doesn't excuse murder." My words echoed in the tense silence. But her laugh chilled me to my bones. "You don't understand," she hissed. "You didn't just steal him. You stole the life I was promised. The life I deserved. And tonight, I was taking it back. If you were gone, maybe Richard would finally see what he was missing." Her eyes blazed with obsession, not love. Richard slammed his fist down again. "Enough, Lorraine." His voice shook with anger. But it was too late. The truth had already poisoned the room. The family would never forget this night. And neither would I. Because from that moment, I knew one thing. Forgiveness was impossible. I looked at Richard, my voice cold. "You let this happen. You knew she hated me. And you did nothing. You're as guilty as she is." His face crumpled with regret, but it was too late. My trust in him was gone. The love we shared was ash. Daniel sobbed into my dress, but I held him close. "It's okay," I whispered, though my own heart was breaking. Inside, a fire lit within me. They thought they could break me. They thought I would crumble under their betrayal. But they had no idea what I was capable of. The family watched in stunned silence as I stepped back, holding the bottle of poison in my hand. Its weight felt heavy, like the truth itself. My hands shook, but my voice was steady. "You wanted war, Lorraine? Fine. You'll get it. But this time, I won't be your victim." A ripple of gasps swept the room. Lorraine's smile faltered. Richard's face drained of color. They didn't know what I meant. Not yet. But soon they would. Because I had made a choice in that moment. A choice that would change everything. And once I began, there was no turning back. The party ended in chaos. Plates were left half full, voices cracked with fear, and the poisoned cake sat untouched in the center of the table like a silent witness. People shuffled out quickly, whispering behind their hands. No one wanted to stay another second in that house of secrets. I stood still, holding Daniel close, my fingers brushing through his hair. His small body trembled against mine. I whispered that it was going to be okay, even though I wasn't sure. My heart was broken, but beneath the pain, a plan began to form. I would not stay silent. When the last guest left, I turned to Richard. He stood near the doorway, shoulders slumped, eyes heavy with shame. Lorraine had already stormed out, her husband dragging her away. The silence between us was sharp, like glass ready to cut. I had only one question for him. Why? I asked, my voice low. Why didn't you tell me? He opened his mouth, then closed it, his throat bobbing like he was swallowing stones. His eyes filled with tears, but tears could not wash away betrayal. Finally, he whispered, I thought it would fade. I thought she would stop. His words twisted in my chest. He had known. He had watched her hatred grow like weeds and said nothing. You thought wrong, I replied coldly. I turned away, carrying Daniel to his room. That night, I sat awake beside him, watching his little chest rise and fall. I made a vow. I promised myself that Lorraine would never touch my child, never touch me again. She wanted me gone. She wanted my life. But I wasn't going to hand it over. If she thought I was weak, she was about to meet a version of me she never imagined. The next morning, I rose early. I dressed in plain clothes, tied my hair back, and left Daniel with a neighbor I trusted. Richard tried to speak as I walked out the door, but I didn't give him the chance. His voice was nothing to me now. My focus was revenge. I drove across town to a quiet shop that no one in my family knew about. The owner, Mrs. Howard, was an old woman who had known me since I was young. She trusted me. More importantly, she asked no questions. I bought a small notebook, a lockbox, and a key. When I returned home, I started writing. Every detail from the party. Every word Lorraine had said. Every glance Richard refused to give me. My handwriting shook, but the truth spilled onto the pages. If anything happened to me, these words would remain. My first step was to document the lies. But revenge isn't only about truth. It's about power. And Lorraine thought she had all the power. She thought her secret love with Richard gave her the upper hand. What she didn't know was that love built on lies always collapses. I would be the one to break it down. That night, I hid the notebook inside the lockbox and placed it under a loose board in Daniel's closet. He was the only one I trusted. This is our secret, sweetheart, I whispered to him. His wide eyes looked at me with confusion, but he nodded. Only ours, he repeated. The next few days, I played my part. I cooked, I cleaned, I smiled. But behind my calm face, I was watching. Lorraine came by twice, pretending everything was normal. Her hugs were too tight, her laugh too loud. Did she think I had forgotten what she tried to do? I began recording her. A small device hidden in my pocket, capturing every word. I asked gentle questions, pretending to be curious, pretending to forgive. She grew bolder, more careless. You don't know what Richard told me, she whispered once, smirking. He would have chosen me if not for you. Those words cut deep, but they also gave me fuel. Each recording, each whisper, was another brick in the wall I was building against her. She didn't know it yet, but she was burying herself with her own tongue. Have you ever seen someone dig their own grave with words? One evening, Richard found me listening to one of the recordings. His face drained of color. Evelyn, he said softly, what are you doing? I looked him in the eye for the first time in days. Collecting proof, I replied. His mouth opened, but no sound came. He knew I was serious. Lorraine was bold, but not smart. She thought she had me cornered, but the more she spoke, the more evidence I gathered. Each day, I grew stronger. Each night, Daniel's presence reminded me why I couldn't give up. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about protecting my child. By the end of the week, I had enough to confront her, but I didn't want just a confrontation. I wanted everyone to see her true face. I wanted the same family she tried to fool to witness her fall. The cake had been meant to end me. Now it would end her. I started planning. The next family gathering would be in 2 weeks. A birthday for Richard's father. Lorraine would surely come. She would smile, laugh, and pretend again. But this time, I would be ready. This time, I would be the one pulling strings. And she would not escape. As I tucked Daniel into bed that night, he looked at me with those innocent eyes. "Mom," he whispered, "are we safe now?" My heart ached, but I kissed his forehead. "Not yet," I said softly, "but we will be." Because the storm was only just beginning. And in that storm, Lorraine was going to drown. The morning of the next family gathering, I woke before anyone else. The house was quiet, the air heavy with anticipation. Daniel slept soundly, unaware of the plan that would soon unfold. I kissed his forehead and whispered, "Today, we take back our power." I dressed carefully, choosing a soft blue dress that made me look calm, harmless, but inside, I was burning with determination. Lorraine would never see it coming. She thought I was weak, but I had patience, cunning, and truth on my side. I smiled to myself, imagining her surprise. Richard was already in the living room, sipping coffee. His eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of guilt and fear. "Evelyn," he said quietly, "are you sure about this?" I nodded, my voice firm. "It's time, Richard. She won't stop until she loses everything." Daniel bounced into the room, unaware of the tension. "Mom, is it today?" he asked, eyes wide. I hugged him tightly. "Yes, baby. Today we fix things." He looked up at me, smiling, trusting me completely. That trust gave me more courage than anything else in the world. The guests started arriving one by one. Lorraine was the last to enter, her eyes immediately scanning the room for me. She smiled, too wide, too bright. She didn't know what I had done to prepare. Every smile, every glance, every whisper had been recorded. Every secret of hers was ready to be revealed. I poured drinks, offered hors d'oeuvres, and laughed at her jokes. She relaxed, her confidence growing with each passing minute. She believed she was in control. But control is an illusion, and I held the threads. Each step she took tonight was another move into my trap. Richard stood near me, shifting uneasily. "Be careful," he muttered. I smiled, hiding my anger. "Careful? Don't worry, I have this under control." He nodded, though doubt still clouded his eyes. Could he truly see what I was doing, or was he still blinded by loyalty to his sister? The first toast came, laughter filling the room. Lorraine raised her glass, beaming. "To family," she said. But everyone in the room didn't know she was silently sweating. I caught her eye and nodded slightly, a tiny gesture only I understood. The recordings were ready. The trap was set. As the evening progressed, Lorraine relaxed further. She laughed too loud at Richard's jokes, whispered secrets to their cousins. Each word she spoke, each betrayal she confessed unknowingly to the microphone hidden under the table, added another brick to the wall I was building around her. Then Daniel tugged at my sleeve. "Mom," he whispered, pointing under the table. Lorraine's handbag had slipped slightly, revealing a small envelope sticking out. I smiled. Coincidence? Perhaps. But sometimes coincidences are the universe giving you what you need. I slipped the envelope into my pocket quietly. The food arrived, platters of meat and vegetables filling the table. Lorraine took the first bite, smiling triumphantly at me. She didn't know I had prepared a little surprise for later. A truth bomb that would make everyone see her for who she truly was. "Do you think she suspects anything yet?" I waited until the cake was brought out. The same cake she had once tried to poison. I made sure the family thought nothing had changed. Lorraine's eyes gleamed with false security. She thought I would never dare bring it back. But tonight, it wasn't about poison. It was about exposure. I whispered to Daniel. "Now." He pressed a button on the small device in his pocket. The hidden recording began playing, faint at first, then louder. Everyone froze. Lorraine's face changed from smug to shocked as her own words spilled across the room. "He would have chosen me if not for her." Gasps erupted. The room's air turned heavy. Lorraine's eyes widened in terror. What is this?" she stammered. But the recording continued, each word exposing her obsession, her hatred, her plan. Even Richard's face drained of color. The truth couldn't be ignored this time. Lorraine's hands trembled. She tried to laugh it off, to cover her fear with fake charm. But every family member leaned closer, listening, staring. The walls of her lies were crumbling in real time. Could she salvage anything? Or was this the moment it all came crashing down? Richard finally spoke, his voice low but firm. Lorraine, this isn't just about you anymore. His gaze locked on her. You crossed a line. Evelyn and Daniel are innocent. You threatened them. Do you understand that? Her shoulders slumped slightly, fear overtaking anger. I took a deep breath and stood taller, feeling the fire inside me ignite. Tonight, everyone sees the truth. All your threats, your schemes, they end now. My voice was calm, but powerful. Lorraine couldn't look away. She was trapped, exposed, and helpless in front of our family. Daniel squeezed my hand, whispering, Mom, she's going to be scared now, right? I nodded. Yes, baby. And she deserves it. The family watched, wide-eyed, some shocked, some finally understanding. I smiled inwardly. Revenge didn't need violence tonight. Truth was stronger than any weapon. Suddenly, Lorraine lunged for the envelope she realized I had taken. Give that back, she screamed. But it was too late. The evidence, the recordings, the letters, all safe with me. The room's attention shifted entirely to her. For the first time, she was powerless. But before she could collapse completely, she glared at Richard. You didn't stop her. Her voice cracked, fury and betrayal mixing. Could he have saved her? Or was he too late, realizing he had backed the wrong sister all along? The tension was unbearable. I leaned forward, keeping my voice soft but sharp. You made your choices, Lorraine. And now everyone knows who you are. No more hiding, no more lies. This is your reckoning. My heart pounded with both triumph and fear. Could she strike back? Could she ruin everything I had built? She froze, staring at me, the room, the family. The mask she wore for so long shattered completely. For the first time, I saw raw, unfiltered fear in her eyes. And I realized, this wasn't just the end of her lies. This was the beginning of a storm she couldn't escape. Lorraine's face was pale, her hands shaking as the family stared. She had been exposed, but anger burned in her eyes. You think this ends here? She hissed, her voice low but sharp. You think I'll let you win? The room fell silent. Could she really have another plan? I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. This isn't a game, Lorraine, I said calmly. You threatened my son. You tried to poison me. You made your choices. Now everyone sees the truth. My voice was steady, but inside, fear still flickered. Daniel clutched my hand, his little body pressing against me. Mom, is she going to be okay? He asked, confusion and fear in his eyes. I shook my head softly. No, baby. But we are. She'll have to face what she's done. Richard's eyes were wide, a storm of guilt and worry swirling inside him. Evelyn, what if she... He stopped, unable to finish the thought. Could she hurt him? Or was he worried for Lorraine? The tension made the room crackle like static electricity. Lorraine's husband tried to intervene, stepping forward. Honey, calm down, he said, but she shoved him back. Don't touch me. You all think you're better than me. Her screams filled the room. Everyone froze. Could she lash out physically? Would she take this fight too far? I moved closer, keeping my voice calm. No one is better than anyone, I said firmly. But your actions have consequences. Tonight, you are facing them. Are you ready to be honest with everyone? The question hung in the air. Would she confess more secrets? Or dig herself deeper? She glared at me, her lips trembling. I don't care anymore, she shouted. Then, unexpectedly, she ran to the kitchen. Everyone gasped. What could she possibly be looking for? A weapon? More poison? Or was she running away? The uncertainty gripped the room. I followed slowly, keeping Daniel close. He whispered, "Mom, is she going to hurt us?" I shook my head. "Not if I can stop her, baby. But we have to be careful." Each step felt heavy, as though the house itself held its breath. In the kitchen, Lorraine opened a drawer and grabbed a knife. My stomach dropped. This was worse than I had imagined. Her anger had turned dangerous. I whispered to myself, "Think, Evelyn. Stay calm. Protect Daniel first." Every second counted. Suddenly, she spun around, knife raised, eyes blazing. "You ruined everything," she screamed. "I'll make you pay." My mind raced. Could I stop her? Should I try to wrestle the knife? Or distract her somehow? What would you do in my place? I reached for a nearby vase, my hands trembling but determined. "Lorraine, stop!" I shouted. "This isn't you. You're letting anger control you." She paused for a split second, and that moment was enough. I hurled the vase toward the sink, creating a loud crash that startled her. Daniel screamed, hiding behind me. I pressed myself between him and Lorraine, my arms out. "Stay back," I yelled, trying to keep my voice steady. Every heartbeat felt like a drum in my ears. Could I protect my son? Could I survive this night? She lunged toward the counter instead, knife slipping from her fingers as she lost her balance. The room froze. I realized then that she had no plan, only rage. Her power was an illusion. But her desperation was real. And dangerous. Richard moved then, quickly grabbing her arm. "Lorraine, stop!" he shouted, holding her firmly. She struggled, fighting against him, but I saw a crack in her fury. The first moment of doubt flickered across her face. Could fear finally reach her? Or was it just a pause before more chaos? I knelt beside Daniel, holding him close. "It's okay, baby," I whispered. "We're safe. We're together." But in the back of my mind, I knew this was far from over. Lorraine had been humiliated, exposed, and yet she still had fire inside her. The family gathered around, tense and shocked. Some whispered, some stared in disbelief. How could someone be so consumed by jealousy and hatred? How had we survived her plot so far? The questions swirled in everyone's minds, and even I wasn't certain of the answers yet. Finally, Lorraine collapsed onto a chair, exhausted, tears streaking her face. But even then, I could see she was plotting, scheming. She would not give up easily. And in that moment, I realized the war had only begun. We had won a battle, but the fight for our lives and our peace was far from over. I looked at Richard, my voice low but firm. "This ends tonight, for real. No more secrets. No more lies. Are you ready to choose?" His face was pale, eyes wide, searching mine for truth. Would he finally side with the right person? Or would family loyalty pull him back to her side? Daniel hugged me tightly. "Mom, we did it, right?" he whispered. I nodded, smiling through my tears. "For now, baby. But we have to be ready. She won't stop trying." Even as I comforted him, I felt the tension building, knowing the next steps would be crucial. I took a deep breath, scanning the room. Everyone watched us, waiting, unsure of what would happen next. I knew one thing: Lorraine's obsession had limits, but her cunning did not. The next move would determine whether we survived or fell into her trap. The morning after the family gathering, the house felt quiet but tense. Lorraine hadn't slept. I could see it in her eyes. Dark circles, a wild edge, a mind racing with plans. Do you think someone can be so consumed by anger that sleep becomes impossible? She was dangerous, but predictable. I prepared breakfast, careful to keep Daniel calm. "Mom, is she still mad?" he asked, eyes wide. I smiled softly, hiding my nerves. Yes, baby. But we have a plan. Don't worry. Could a child understand the storm we were walking through? Could he even sense the danger that lingered? Richard appeared, still unsettled, pacing the living room. He avoided my eyes but kept glancing at Lorraine's empty chair. I knew he struggled with loyalty. Would he help his sister, or finally see the truth? I asked gently, "Are you ready to make the right choice?" Lorraine returned later, her movements slow, deliberate, calculating. She carried herself like nothing had happened, but I knew better. Her calm was a mask for a storm. Each step she took, each glance she made, I recorded silently. Would she slip up again, revealing more of her obsession? I set the scene carefully for the afternoon. Friends, neighbors, and distant relatives would come over. Everyone would witness her behavior firsthand. This time, she couldn't charm her way out. Could a public setting finally strip away her facade? Could the world see her for what she truly was? Daniel helped me place the dishes, unaware of the tension thickening the air. "Mom, is this a party?" he asked. I laughed softly. "Yes, honey. A very important one." Inside, my mind raced. The cake was ready. The recordings were ready. The trap was almost complete. Were you ever so close to the edge that your heart felt frozen? Lorraine arrived, smiling like a queen. She looked around the house, checking who had come, sizing everyone up. "Hello, everyone," she said, voice sweet, but her eyes flickered to me. I returned a smile, calm and controlled. Could she sense that I knew her every move? Could she guess what was coming? The party began. People laughed, exchanged small talk, and tried to ignore the tension. But Lorraine's every move was watched, every word recorded. Her obsession with Richard had made her careless. She believed she could manipulate the room, but in truth, she was walking into a cage. Then I served the cake. The centerpiece of the gathering, the same cake that had once held her threat. Everyone leaned in, admiring it. Lorraine's eyes gleamed. She had no idea that this time, she wasn't in control. Would she take the bait? Would her next move be her last mistake? I whispered to Daniel. "Now, baby." He pressed the small device hidden in his pocket. The recordings played softly at first, then louder. Lorraine's words filled the room, exposing every secret, every hateful comment, every plan she had tried to hide. Could she recover from this exposure? Could she convince anyone it was a trick? Gasps echoed. Her face drained of color. She froze, realizing the room was against her. The neighbors, relatives, everyone, stared in shock. Could someone be so clever, so calculated? Could she escape the consequences this time, or was she trapped by her own words? Lorraine lunged toward me, hands shaking, rage sparking in her eyes. You can't do this," she screamed. But this time I was ready. I held Daniel back, keeping him safe, while calmly stepping in front of her. Could a mother's courage withstand someone so desperate? Could love for a child be stronger than fear? Richard moved quickly, taking her arm. "Stop it, Lorraine. Look around. This is what you've done." His voice trembled, but authority cut through her rage. Could he finally choose the right side? Could he stand with the truth instead of family loyalty? I felt a deep calm settle over me. Lorraine's power had been dismantled, her threats neutralized by the truth. But I knew better than to underestimate her. The obsession that drove her might not be broken yet. Could a human heart fueled by envy ever truly be tamed? The family watched, stunned, as Lorraine sank into a chair. Tears streaked her face. She tried to speak, but the words faltered. She was exposed, powerless, humiliated. Could she rebuild? Could she ever look anyone in the eye again after tonight? I knelt beside Daniel, hugging him close. "It's okay, baby. We're safe now," I whispered. But even as I comforted him, I felt the tension of the unknown lingering. What if Lorraine tried something later? What if her obsession had not yet reached its limits? The neighbors murmured, relatives exchanged glances. Richard exhaled, exhausted. The room felt heavy, full of relief but also disbelief. Could anyone fully understand what had just happened? Could anyone see the depth of manipulation and obsession Lorraine had held over our lives? I stood tall, feeling a mixture of triumph and caution. This was victory, but a cautious one. Revenge had been served, but vigilance would still be needed. Could someone like Lorraine truly accept defeat, or would she rise again like a storm? As the evening drew to a close, I looked at Richard. You saw everything. Do you understand now? He nodded, pale and shaken. Yes. I see. I should have acted sooner. Could he ever forgive himself? Could we rebuild trust after this betrayal? Daniel yawned, tired but happy. Mom, we did it, he whispered. I smiled down at him, feeling his warmth, his innocence, and the life we had fought to protect. Yes, baby. We did. But the fight isn't completely over. Lorraine's gaze met mine one last time. She was broken, but her eyes still held fire. The game had changed, but the player was not defeated completely. Could she recover and strike again? Or was this truly the end of her reign of obsession? The morning after the showdown, the house felt quiet. Lorraine was gone. I didn't know where she went, but I could feel the emptiness she left behind. Could someone be so consumed by hatred that leaving was the only choice? I watched Daniel play quietly, trying to enjoy a moment of peace. Richard sat across from me at the kitchen table, head in his hands. Evelyn. I can't believe it came to this, he said softly. Could he finally understand the cost of silence? Could he see how his choices affected everyone, especially Daniel? I poured him coffee, keeping my hands steady. It had to happen, I said. Truth always comes out. Lies only last so long. He nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. Do you think he'll finally take responsibility for his actions? Daniel tugged at my sleeve. Mom, is she gone forever? He asked, worried. I hugged him close. Yes, baby. For now, she won't hurt us anymore. Could innocence protect a child from a storm of betrayal? Or does it make them more aware of danger? The recordings were safely stored, evidence ready if needed. I had documented everything, but I didn't want revenge to turn into punishment beyond reason. Sometimes, showing the truth is stronger than seeking anger. Would you expose someone, or forgive them for the sake of peace? Later that day, I walked through the backyard, letting the sun warm my face. The garden smelled like spring, alive and fresh. I realized that life could still be beautiful, even after chaos. Could we rebuild what was broken? Could love survive after betrayal? Richard joined me outside. I want to apologize, he said, voice low. For everything. For not seeing it sooner. I nodded, accepting his words but keeping my guard. Do people really change, or do they just hide mistakes differently? Daniel ran ahead, laughing. His joy was contagious. I watched him, feeling a rush of gratitude. Protecting him was everything. Could someone be motivated by anything stronger than love for their child? Would you fight as fiercely as a parent to shield your family? That evening, I placed the last piece of the plan in motion. Letters were sent to family members explaining the truth about Lorraine. No anger, only facts. Everyone would understand the full picture. Could honesty finally repair relationships? Could transparency be the ultimate revenge and the ultimate peace? Lorraine never returned. Weeks passed, and her absence became permanent. The house felt lighter, calmer. But I knew the lesson lingered. Power built on manipulation collapses. People who threaten family eventually face consequences. Do you think she learned anything? Or is obsession impossible to cure? I sat with Daniel before bed, brushing his hair back. Mom, we're safe now, he asked, eyes wide. I smiled and kissed his forehead. Yes, baby. Forever safe. His trust filled me with strength. Could innocence and truth finally conquer fear? Could peace truly be achieved? Richard stood at the doorway. "Thank you, Evelyn," he said softly. "For everything." I nodded. "It's not about thanks. It's about righting wrongs." He looked at me, understanding at last the courage it took to protect what mattered most. Could people ever fully understand the weight of such choices? The night grew quiet. Stars shone above the house, casting a soft glow over the yard. I felt relief, gratitude, and a little sadness. Some battles leave scars, but some victories are worth the cost. Could peace really feel this complete after chaos? Could life feel this light? I reflected on the events. Lorraine's obsession had been dangerous, but the love for Daniel, the courage to stand up, and the truth had been stronger. Could love always overcome hate? Could courage always outshine fear? As I tucked Daniel into bed, he whispered, "Mom, I love you." My heart swelled. "I love you too, baby. More than anything." In that moment, all the betrayal, fear, and danger felt worth enduring. Could love truly be the strongest power in the world? The final twist came quietly. Lorraine's attempts to return or retaliate had failed. The family now understood everything. Richard accepted the truth, Daniel was safe, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and determined. Could this be the ending? Or do scars always remind us of the past? I looked around the house one last time before sleeping. Peace settled in every corner. The storm had passed. But I knew vigilance was always necessary. Could someone rise again? Or would truth protect us now? If you've ever faced betrayal, heartbreak, or someone trying to ruin your family, remember this. Courage, truth, and love are stronger than fear. Do you have the courage to stand for your family? Could you protect what matters most? And now, friends, if you felt the tension, the suspense, and the drama of this story, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who loves thrilling stories, and subscribe for more emotional, gripping tales. Where are you watching from? Comment below. I'd love to know.